difficult geopolitics and trying to make sure that its voice is rightly heard in the business world and the diplomatic world.
British Ambassador to Uzbekistan, Timothy Smart.
That gives access to global employment, global markets, and also a diversity of opinion.
Where are British companies investing?
How do we make sure the British investors are lined up to come here? Uzbekistan have international best practice. I think we get a win-win. Zari Manfaatli.
We could be collaborating on the Chevening scholarship.
I'm humbled by their intelligence, their drive and their passion.
The Uzbeks are...
And just a real sense of optimism about Uzbekistan.
What are the competitive advantages?
We can assist and build up, help support that genuine economic independence. That's an exciting time to be here.
Conversation. It's my pleasure to welcome to the conversation Timothy Smart. Thank you so much for joining us. Ambassador, you're an Uzbek speaker. You've had a huge amount of diplomatic success over the last couple of years, particularly with Lord Cameron's visit, which was very, very high profile. There have been some wins recently in trade and export finance, bilateral agreements, financial services, and of course, the Chevening Scholarship coming up. Tell us, a year has passed since you joined the British Embassy here in Tashkent. How did the country meet and differ from your expectations?
Wonderful. Sizlaringiz, hoş geldiniz, uchun katrakmat. It is wonderful to be in Uzbekistan. I think it's been 14 months now. And I'd been in Central Asia only once before in 2000, when I'd been up to Kyrgyzstan. But I spent 12 months learning Uzbek. So I kind of felt like I knew the culture, knew a lot about the language, but still it didn't prepare me for this sheer sense of growth and dynamism when you get here, with all the construction going on, all young Uzbekistan in its full. This was 2023. And just a real sense of optimism about Uzbekistan against the backdrop of difficult geopolitics and trying to make sure that its voice is rightly heard in the business world and the diplomatic world. And it's quite nice to see that confidence. But on a personal note, my family have fitted in well. The welcome is genuine and continues. The focus on education is lovely to see. And I think the genuine interest in knowing more about Britain and Uzbekistan, building those relationships with us is reciprocal and quite wonderful to be part of.
Yeah, and speaking of which, how do you envisage relations between Uzbekistan and the UK? What are the key priority areas of the British government here?
Yeah, so we have several key areas. Largely, so our focus is the government under Prime Minister Starmer is very much on growth, on security, on the challenges of climate change. And if you look at what the president's priorities are in country, they're pretty similar. They align very well. So what does this mean in practice? In geopolitics, we're very interested in working with Uzbekistan on supporting the rules-based international order, which has some challenges in recent years. And practically that means supporting Central Asia and Uzbekistan in particular, territorial integrity and sovereignty and voice on the world stage and working together on that. Then secondly, on growth, it's how do we help each other to grow our mutual economies? What are the opportunities to help share best practice in the UK to give access to finance, capital markets, education, financial services, marketing services, PR? What can we do to assist? And similarly, how do we make sure the British investors are lined up to come here and support the huge reform agenda of the president, which has seen the country go a very closed economy in 2016, and just 8 years later to 6% GDP growth. Poverty reduced from 30-odd% down to 10-11%. Real focus on education, on learning the best of digital economy overseas and really equipping the workforce. That's an exciting time to be here and to help the reform agenda and help build those partnerships across the board.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I came here 3 years ago and set up a British company here in Uzbekistan, and with a lot of support from you guys and of course the reform process as well. But on a kind of wider sense, where are British companies investing in the country here?
So just yesterday, I was part of a 17-strong, supporting 17 UK education partners who are here for a wider education forum. and they were looking at opportunities to build on the base of 10 transnational education partnerships already in Uzbekistan. We started with Westminster International University over 20 years ago. And so here were 17 new partners on English language training, on research between universities, on capacity building, quality assurance, on exam qualifications. Here, talking to Uzbek universities, talking to Uzbek schools, talking to the Ministry of the various ministries. I was in the meeting with the higher education and digital yesterday, and again, a real sense of partnership and learning from each other, with the driving force behind 1 million Uzbeks born each year. 700,000 odd coming out of secondary education. Want the president very clearly, and I think all the people wanting the access to the global economy. And for that, the skills we can share from the UK, the experience, the knowledge, is something which I think we have a genuine offer and partnership. Then secondly, on around other sectors, financial services, infrastructure, mining, we have world-leading companies in those areas. We have some of the best legislation, and again, we're looking to help. And something like the EITI, the Transparency in the Extractive Industry Initiative, I know they're coming later this year, and again, that can help with governance structures as the state here looks to privatise a lot of state-owned enterprises, and with the banking sector and mining sector right at the forefront of that, how can we help? I have quite, I think as the UK, we have a distinctive offer in the access to the capital markets in London, where just last year, over $3 trillion of total market value on the London Stock Exchange.
Pretty impressive.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And the more we can work together on the business ecosystem, the legislative environment, to help Uzbekistan have international best practice, I think we get a win-win. Uzari manfaatli, really at the heart of what we're trying to do here. And that's quite attractive. And various other sectors, but I think I'd just highlight also what we can do on green technologies and helping move forward the ambition of a far greener Uzbekistan on the 2030 agenda. And I think there's a lot of experience we as UK companies, both in innovation in that sector, but also in some of the finances and development programming we have where we can help.
I mean, there's a very wide and broad area that both Uzbek companies and British companies and obviously underpinned by your work as well can be collaborating on. I mean, dialing back a little bit, particularly on education in the context of Times Higher Education Forum and the bilateral discussions you've been recently having. Tell us a little bit about what the UK is doing to foster a further kind of positive educational environment here, and about, of course, the Chevening Scholarship, which is very timely.
Thank you. So we have the regional office of the British Council here, who are very much helping partner with the government here on some of the educational reforms, whether that's teacher training, accreditation, quality assurance, working with the likes of UNESCO, UNICEF, and particularly the government ministries here to really help the ministries here, the schools, deliver the President's priority on education. And I'm very struck by how insightful that is in terms of developing the skill sets as we just spoke about. So I've been a diplomat for 25 years, and every year of that I've been passionate about Chevening and supported it from being the country Chevening officer in my first posting to as the head of mission in several posts now. And it's one of the greatest privileges to support Chevening. When last I looked at this, 1 in 7 of the world leaders was a Chevening alumni.
Really?
Which is quite something. I don't know, that was a figure in 2017. I think it's probably improved, but that's quite telling in terms of the calibre of individuals to attract. And this year is the 30th anniversary of the Chevening programme in Uzbekistan. And we have, I think, 16 scholars going, just the brightest and the best from the education system here. And I'm humbled by their intelligence, their drive and their passion. It's a real privilege to send them off and let them go to the UK and experience our culture, but particularly to gain the expertise that our world-leading universities can offer, to take that experience, to learn from it in whichever sector, whether it's in education, whether it's in finance, whether it's in IT, agriculture, economics, etc., and bring it back to Uzbekistan and help build this new country as it develops, a younger Uzbekistan. That's exciting. And we have an application this year falling on the 5th of November. So those who are interested, what I say to them, be passionate, show your integrity, really quality control your application, but give it a go. It's well worth it. And we will help you build a global network of contacts one which you will use throughout your life, but also a network of around 300 alumni already in Uzbekistan.
I mean, it's a great opportunity for anyone out there. Please do apply to Chevening if you can. And but I guess on a wider, you said there are Chevening scholars now all around Uzbekistan in different spheres. What impact do you think that's had on bilateral relations overall?
So one of your first questions was one of my impressions of Uzbekistan. And it was an absolute privilege to learn Uzbek before coming here. But I did not expect the level of English language ability here.
Yeah.
Really surprised me. Obviously, I was expecting the Russian. And I'd known that the drive of Uzbek was growing, particularly in the under 45 generation. But constantly I meet ministers, advisors, key contacts who I will start off in Uzbek and they will blow away my Uzbek by their fluency in English. And it's quite something, and that's across the board, whether that's in the foreign ministry, which you'd more expect, but in trade, in finance, in the education sector, agriculture, transport, even the security sector. There's a whole host of English speakers coming through. And that's quite something, because that gives access to global employment, global markets, and also a diversity of opinion. And that's something which is quite wonderful to see.
Do you have any advice for potential applicants for the Chevening Scholarship?
Yeah, so as I was saying, it's competitive,
Yeah.
but the rewards are quite something. You will, if successful, you will be among an elite cadre of alumni globally, but particularly in Uzbekistan. So there's one side of that quite nerve-wracking, but try. If you don't try, you can't get it. And within that, in your application, take the time to quality control it. Really think about the difference you want to make in Uzbekistan for public good, how you want to make it. And that can be setting up your own business, being an entrepreneur, which then gives back to the economy and develops, brings employment. That can be a world-class scientist, that can be a diplomat, it can be a journalist, whatever it is you think you can do to develop this country. Make sure it shines. Show your integrity, show your ambition, and show your skill set. And I think you'll do well.
Well, fantastic. And I guess moving on now to financial markets.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot. I'm British, you're British, and obviously, London is the centre of everything financial for us. The Uzbeks are definitely headed in that direction when it comes to privatisation, when it comes to bonds, when it comes to potential IPOs. NGMK, Navoy Metals and Mining, recently completed, or even this week, completed a $1 billion Eurobonds on the London Stock Exchange. Why are Uzbek companies looking specifically at London, the London Stock Exchange, to do these things? And, what are the competitive advantages?
One of the biggest offers I have and privileges I have as the British ambassador here is Uzbekistan is very much a aspirational, soon to be hopefully middle income country, hopefully a high middle income country. It's an equal partner. This isn't a development partner, this is an equal partner on the world stage. And when we talk about the President's reform agenda and where we can assist and build up, help support that genuine economic independence, that diplomatic, that multi-vectoral foreign policy, one of the biggest offers I have as the British ambassador is helping facilitate access to those capital markets in London, and that total market value of $3 trillion. That's quite an offer. We can help, but there's some really good programs we've got around economic governance, around supporting the present priorities on health, education, water. But really, my biggest offer here is that access to that foreign direct investment. Yeah. And that's where the London Stock Exchange, City of London, comes into it. As we look at WTO accession, where we're actively supporting and helping provide capacity for Uzbekistan and want to see it happen as soon as possible, the next biggest offer we have is bringing those companies, hopefully, to IPO in the near future on the London Stock Exchange. And that has access to just a whole host of investors who can really value for money for those investments and help drive the economy here.
And obviously, a lot of these opportunities are actually that Uzbeks can access now is actually thanks to a very fast, swift-moving, and committed reform agenda by the government here. Obviously, it's been a huge amount of hard work from the government here, but also helped by partners like the UK. How has the UK worked specifically with the government here in trying to move those things along and trying to provide international best practice?
There are a few areas. We have an economic governance program, EGID, which is about 25 million over several years. And that's very much helping with the President's reform agenda around education and access to clean water. And that helps the delivery unit, other partners in government, in finance ministry, etc., have the data and tools to be able to guide the policy making, so the policy based on actual data. And that's based on some of the delivery unit models which we are using back in the UK as well as supporting that. We set up a Green Inclusive Growth Fund, which is to help SMEs, small medium enterprises, look at options for access to private equity, capital markets to support green inclusive growth in the country. So again, not just government-led, but actually bottom-up, supporting entrepreneurs, think, well, what is the opportunity here to mitigate against climate change, to adapt the economy, to move it away from heavy carbon Soviet-era infrastructure to actually move it to modern green economies. And similarly, we're working through partners like the World Bank and supporting their Central Asia Water and Energy Programme, again, modernising water and energy across Central Asia, which I hope will be quite a good offering. And again, we work with other IFIs, international financial institutions like EBRD, to support their programmes in developing that more modern, greener economy.
Yeah. Talking about the green economy, I guess that was going to actually be my next question. I mean, the green economy is something that the UK is prioritising internationally. And the Uzbek government is as well very, very keen on, particularly when it comes to diversifying energy sources in terms of, you know, building out knowledge base of it more widely. In terms of international investors, in terms of trade, how are UK companies helping facilitate the green transition?
So in addition to the green inclusive growth here, one of the focuses for the British government here, when I mentioned those priorities earlier for the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Foreign Minister, Foreign Secretary David Lammy, growth at the heart, security second, climate as a mission for the whole of government is right there in the third priorities. And then we've got our development offer. And that's really quite attractive. So what that says to me is that in Central Asia particularly, growth, security and climate come together as priorities. So not only in the work on the embassy on the political side, on the security side, but the commercial side, it's a key priority. So we have a Department for Business and Trade office here, who, when I got here, were a couple of members of staff. They're now 3, they're moving to 5 members of staff, and we're growing that team the whole time. Mm-hmm. And again, that ambition, a huge part of that is supporting, making sure that British companies know of the opportunities here on greening of the economy and supporting the President's priorities around 2030. And we really want to see ambitious NCDs as we look ahead to Baku at the end of the year. And again, we will find opportunities for the government, but business links as well to really support that.
And of course, that's the first regional COP.
That's the first regional COP.
That's quite an exciting moment for this part of the world. Moving on, I guess, to opportunities for Uzbek companies. Yeah. UK export finance. I know that has been it's been a big project of yours, and as far as I understand, there's been some recent successes. Yeah,
so recently Weir Mining Group and Al Malik signed the first deal for, I think it was a smaller deal, about 12 million, but it's a foot in the door. And I think the headline figure for your audience is UK Export Finance can offer financing of up to, I think on an envelope about £4 billion now. It's quite an offer, and that helps very much in terms of preferential rates on access to finance, debt financing, in a way that so long as it's 20% British content, then that's open to Uzbek companies to work with British and other partners on whether it's big infrastructure projects, whether it's high-speed rail, whether there's something around new schools. Whether there's green technology we want to bring in, whether there's, there's just a huge amount of opportunity that helps unlock at a very competitive rate. You won't find, I don't think there's another debt facility like that which is so competitive.
I mean, that's an incredibly exciting opportunity, not just for those that are currently applying, but I'm sure for many other companies that aren't necessarily aware of it as of yet.
We have a dedicated UK Export Finance officer in the embassy here, so if people want to find out more, we can put them in contact.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. What steps is the UK taking to support the development of the regional trade infrastructure? Of course, Uzbekistan is part of Central Asia. Yeah. Central Asia is part of Eurasia, or if we want to generously call it that. But is in a real critical location.
Thank you, Ellie. So one of the areas we are looking at through World Bank EBRD is connectivity in the region. It matters massively. It's really impressive to see since the end of 2016 how Central Asia is coming together in the region. And I realise that map is wider than the five. You know, I know there's Azerbaijan there, what happens in Afghanistan, Mongolia, etc. All part of the, where we sit here as part of the equation in that, and access to markets. And being able to move goods across borders, break down bureaucracy is essential to growing those free market economies across and growth and delivering the jobs necessary for the population here. So one of the areas we do work, I mentioned WTO accession, which will help globally but also in the region, but the other area we work is very much supporting an initiative called Kun.uz, which the German development agency GIZ helped fund. It was a G7 initiative, and just recently we're supporting a program here for them to essentially help government ministries here look at best practice in negotiations globally and be able to negotiate the very best contracts and deals for Uzbekistan. And that's quite nice. So, you know, they will make sure that, you know, multi-billion-dollar deals which the government signs now, that whether it's on mining, infrastructure, that Uzbekistan will be getting the most competitive rates it can do over the next few decades. And there are examples from Kun.uz where they've been working in South America, where they'd saved one government over $10 billion on a deal kind of thing. It's that scale of savings and that ability. So I don't know what that will mean for here, but that's the sort of area where we can help in connectivity. We're also generally interested in very much supporting an inclusive economy here and in Central Asia, particularly focused around support for women and girls and making sure that that diversity is reflected. And I think that also makes sure that by having a more inclusive economy here and in the region, you've got a much better trained workforce, more of a workforce who can compete in the global employment markets, which I think is quite attractive, and we can share our own experiences. Not perfect, but it's a key priority for me, the team, and my government as well in the UK to really push forward inclusive economies.
Well, I mean, fantastic. It sounds like there are lots and lots of opportunities, both for kind of further bilateral work, also for Uzbek companies, for British companies entering Uzbekistan. So I guess that takes us to our final question. What's your vision for UK-Uzbek relations in the course of your term here as ambassador?
Thank you, Ali. I'm sorry it's coming to an end so soon. As I look at the relationship now, it's a fraction of what I think is the potential of where it can be. We're at the trade figure's okay, but you know, it hasn't reached £1 billion yet. You know, it's far below that. Why? There's so much opportunity, as we spoke about, and it's coming. Those education links led by Chevening. Chevening is part of a really nice offer we've got, but it's much wider. Umid Plus has been sending, and Umid, its predecessor, over 100 leading Uzbeks to study in the UK for over 20 years. They are now back here. We can support alumni networks. Just recently, the British Council, supported by the MC, hosted an event of any alumni who had studied in the UK. We want to do more of that. We want to help create those networks because we want them to bring we want them to bring back the very best experiences from the UK, leave what's not useful for them, and come back and really support the growth of this economy. And through those partnerships, both personal, business, governmental, there's a lot more we can be doing together, and now is a really exciting time to do that. And the challenge of the world need, whether it's on climate change, whether it's on security issues, the rules-based international order, we really need to be working together. What none of us like is any big power telling anyone else what to do. We need to work together as in partnership and as close friends to really support a much fairer and freer world. And that is a really exciting challenge. And economic growth, human partnerships are key to that. And that's what we will be doing. And with the President's Reform Agenda, the freer, fairer society he has been leading and championing and building gives us a true partner to work with on that.
Fantastic. Well, on that hopeful and exciting note, thank you so much for joining us here, Ambassador. And I look forward to seeing how the rest of it goes.
Eti Boringis Uchun Katarakmat.
Rahmat.
Salamat Buling. Thank you.